the burden or the vision in my heart for that is to build a community of whole girls. And what I mean by that is girls who are not just like, oh, we know about our faith, but who have struggles with their identity, who think that because they are girls, they can't be in certain professions or they can't speak in certain spaces. Like, can we raise complete girls who can be leaders, who can speak, who can communicate their worth without feeling intimidated, who can be disruptors, right, in the society?
Hi, everybody. Happy Women's Month. We're so grateful to be able to see another Women's Month. And we are so grateful to be able to do another recording and podcast with a wonderful guest today, Dr. Tosin Adebayo. But we just want to celebrate Women's Month. Think about a woman in your life that has made deep impacts into who you are and who you're becoming. We're full of gratitude for each other and for all the women in our lives. So welcome back to Hope Health Community, where we celebrate our community and the hope that we bring each other, particularly in times of uncertainty and turmoil, but definitely we understand how much hope we can share with each other. So we're so grateful that you're here. Hit and click subscribe if you haven't already, and don't forget to share share this episode with within your community and friends and loved ones. So welcome, Rashida. It is so good to see you.
I know it feels like forever. Our audience knows that obviously we're not in the same city. Unfortunately, we will probably be at each other's house or in some circle together in person all the time because we love each other so much, and I think it shows through the podcast. But yeah, very happy to be here and with you all again. I hope you've enjoyed some of the previous podcasts that have premiered. Some exciting things on food and things to keep us nutritious and well, right? So that we can continue in the hope. So without further ado, want to welcome our guest. She is amazing. We're going to have her just tell us a little bit about herself. So welcome in.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. I feel famous right now. Like on a podcast.
You are famous. You are
I
famous.
am famous. I know. Isn't it really interesting that we get to talk about meaningful work outside of academia, outside of the classroom? For me, this is the real deal. Like, this is the real deal, connecting with people beyond the pages of journal articles, textbooks, and all of that. So I'm very excited to be here. Thank you so much, Rashida and Rochelle, for having RR. I never Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here. And I see this as a huge, huge privilege to be able to join you both highly respected scholars. I have never met Rashida, but I have stalked you.
Yes.
Because I looked you up. I'm like, God, what is this?
Oh, wow.
I looked you up. I checked your page. So I am great.
So dope. So dope.
So thank you for having me. I'm trying to think about the possible ways to focus on what I do, who I am. Maybe I will start with the nerdy part of my life. Like I'm a girl mom.
Yes.
Yeah. I have 3 daughters. My husband and I have 3 daughters. Who keep me young and active. It's Women's Month, so we got to talk about that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I had gone into women's research before having girls. So it's really interesting that I'm doing all this women's research, and then boom, I have like first a girl, the second a girl, and the third. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm luck.
Yes. They keep us young for sure.
Yeah, I know. So even when I am not working on research, I am having meaningful conversations about access, health access for girls, for women. my research primarily centers on women's healthcare experiences. And as probably all of us here, I got into research through lived experience. So my lived experience as a woman, as an African immigrant, brought me into the sphere of, I remember, accessing healthcare services as a pregnant woman while I was in grad school, and just totally not understanding how the healthcare system here is structured, or not even having the agency to ask meaningful questions that would impact my health, because I just didn't know, what was I supposed to be asking, who was I supposed to be talking to, and things like that. And so I am very excited to talk about this, because it's just not something I do, it's something I experience. So, talk women's health. Outside of my profession as a communication, professor, I also work with girls, particularly teenage girls. I have a nonprofit organization that works with girls, teenage girls, but specifically teenage girls from immigrants backgrounds. So every summer, we have a summer camp that bring these girls together, and we just spend time with them. And it's just like one of the most beautiful parts of my summer. Like just sitting with those girls. They teach me like all the Gen Z, like
about clock.
the first time I did clock it, I was like, clock it, like, no, you didn't do that. So outside of my professional work, I also work with girls at church, in my organization, and in other spaces. Yeah.
Nice. I'm just so intrigued by all of the work that you do, both in your home, because our work starts at home, and I feel like my 8-year-old is like 3 girls.
Same.
I hear you.
Oh, wow. So with that said, I am, my mom was a girl mom. So when we had my son, she was like, what are we supposed to do with him? I've only had girls, so, but what a joy, what a joy to have those young ladies just really help to guide, the work, and really continue to inspire you to want to make things better.
Yes.
For, this space, right? Yes. That we struggle in as both, I say we're all immigrants, they want to, we all are not from here, in some way, shape, or form. Some might have been here longer, but
right.
It is what it is.
Of course.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Learning a lot of things. So I'm trying to stay good here, learning a lot of things about heritage, my own personal heritage, and just kind of where we are and what, things haven't been completely and fully transparent to those of us who were forced over here. So I've been learning a lot about that lately, really intrigued, both in reading and some very, very powerful documentaries. So we may get into that a little bit, but I definitely want to just quote you and say it's not something that I do, it's something that I experience.
Yeah.
That that really resonated with me. It gave me kind of chills, because we live this. We don't just we're not just projecting on to people what we speculate. We're a part of this community too, which I think we try to emphasize with Hope Health Community. So I wanted to talk just a little bit, just to ask you a little bit more about your nonprofit before we get into the more cerebral types of things that we want to discuss. But when you talk about what would you say your camp entails when you guys get together? Is it like enrichment? Is it community building, helping them to feel safe and realize what it is that they can accomplish if they put their mind to it? And then in this atmosphere of anti-immigrant sentiment, how will you feel this summer's camp might go, and what are some of the programming you might emphasize in this climate?
Thank you so much, Rashida. That's such, a thought-provoking question. Because just before this meeting, I was speaking with a friend who was asking me to take her through, like, what is this year going to look like?
Mhm.
And it really helped me to like, oh, I've never even thought through each of the days that these girls are going to be with me. So we started this, I believe, 3 years ago,
Mhm.
primarily as a faith-based organization. I just gathered
Okay.
girls from my local church and, wanted them to just have a safe space to just come and have like this auntie mentor that they can talk to. A lot of them look up
Yeah.
to me. And that's why one of the reasons I'm very thankful for the opportunity to work in the space that I work, because
Mhm.
beyond how I have, maybe labored to get here, I think it's also an inspiring position. I would say aptly positioned for other young girls to be able to say, I can. Looking at me, a lot of them come to me and ask me questions. How did you navigate, being an immigrant, and now you are a professor? Like, what
Mhm.
does that look like? You're raising children. I raised children through, grad school and all of that. So first, I wanted to establish that it first started as a faith-based, and it's still very much, a faith-based organization. But
Mhm.
what the burden or the vision in my heart for that is to build a community of whole girls. And what I mean by that
Mhm.
is girls who are not just like, oh, we know about our faith, but who have struggles with their identity,
Mhm.
who
Mhm.
think that because they are girls, they can't be in certain professions or they can't speak in certain spaces. Like, can we raise complete girls who can be leaders, who can speak, who can communicate their worth without feeling intimidated, who can be disruptors, right, in the society? And that was the vision and still very much the core part of this work. I'm thinking about
Mhm.
this. That's why I'm so glad Rashida asked me this question. Like this year, we have been very deliberate about not just bringing them to enrich them and mentor them in terms of developing a strong sense of identity, but also to provide life skills.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So this year, for the first time, we are partnering with Towson University Office of STEM Cybersecurity, and they are bringing in the team to work
Mhm.
with the girls and provide them hands-on training on cybersecurity related skills and also robotics. And for me,
Nice.
it's like, I love this.
Love
Like,
it.
I really love this, especially in STEM disciplines where we have a lot of women, underrepresented, or
Mhm.
oftentimes hit barriers of can you be here or can you not be here? I feel
Mhm.
like getting them started on this conversation early on. A lot of them are in middle school, high school, a few of them in college already. I feel like
Mhm.
it's just a strategic point to, hey, these are possibilities for you
Mhm.
within the space. But also a core part of that is also letting them understand the resources that are available to them, because again, I work with a very niche population, at least for now. A
Yeah.
lot of them, I would say 99% of them, are immigrants.
Mm.
And so understanding, like you did mention, the political discourse surrounding immigrants identity,
Mhm.
i I want to be able to mentor and raise girls who are not limited by dominant discourses of immigration and whatnot, to
Mm.
think of themselves as less than they are able
Mhm.
because there is a dominant discourse surrounding immigration identity. I want to
Right.
raise girls who are able to go out there, break boundaries,
Mm.
disrupt the system in good ways, in meaningful ways,
Right.
to give the girl child an opportunity to be who she wants to be. And so it's a mix of faith, it's a mix of, technology skills, it's a
Mhm.
mix of, we have conversations about sexual health, because why not?
Of course.
Right,
Of course.
right, right. So we do all of that, but I think maybe the most important part for them, for the girls, would be also the fun part of creating community, lots of group activities that help them to develop like practical leadership skills. I think
Mhm.
those are highlights for me this year.
Awesome.
Love it. Wish I could go to that
I
camp.
was about to say, when is the sign up date? I have a 7-year-old. You know,
Exactly.
and
Sorry,
so
it's not for 7-year-olds.
where's the solidarity?
Older.
We have girls in the same age bracket, but all right.
They think they're older.
Listen,
I can't keep my baby on my TikTok. I'm like, girl, every time I'm having to delete little videos, like I just did a competition. I'm like, when did you have my phone, girl?
Are you kidding me?
No, it's so great to hear this because like I still feel like a new girl mom, right? Because my girl is the baby, and I was a boy mom for so long, and I'm the only girl, so I know the boy world in weird, intimate ways I want to. But having my daughter, I feel like girls are natural advocates, right? And they speak up without prompting. Like it's so interesting how we lose our voice over time. In my house, I talk to other parents who have, multiple genders in their home and they're raising kids of different sexes and all that. It's like, they're like, no, the girls will speak up, right? But somewhere along the line, we learn to be we make our voices more palatable and more acceptable in spaces that are dominated by men. And so we learn to manage ourselves according to the male gaze and how men look at us and we internalize this idea of femininity as quiet, and subservient, not even submissive, but subservient. So I love the idea that you are cherishing what seems to me to be the natural inclination of the girl child, which is to take whatever opportunities are available and to fly with it, right? And so it's affirming in a way that I think our narrative when I was growing up, because I think Gen X, old millennials, we're the generation that was told, oh, now girls need to shine. So I think I'm part of the first girl power movement generation, right? And everything was centered on us. And then we learned that there's a backlash against girls like us. And now we're the 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds and 50-year-olds who are running a lot of things, but we're told we're not marriage material, or we're told that we're too domineering. And it's like, what's going on? And so the mixed messaging is really interesting and difficult. And I think we still need gender equality and gender equity programs like what you're describing that really encourage girls to be themselves. We're not saying be somebody else, be who God made you to be who you want to be, right? And so I love it. Let me tell you something. Tosin does all the things.
Okay, I see.
Also, I want to put her business out. She also caters.
What?
I'm like,
when do you have time? Wait a minute.
I don't know, but she's amazing. All right. So we're not even going to really scratch the surface. I love this idea of talking about girls, right? And so, and I also wrote down the same thing that Rashida wrote down about, that it's not just an academic experience for you, it's what you live, right? And so you mentioned that you're really interested in the questions around agency to speak up for yourself. And so based on your lived experience, your research, raising girls, when do you think, and I kind of said a little bit of it, but I would love to hear your perspective. When do you think girls and young women start to lose their agency, particularly when it comes to health?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to cut you, but you already asked the question that I wanted to speak to.
Okay, good.
Because for immigrants, it's a double
yes,
right?
I can see that.
Culturally, and I would say maybe my lived experience didn't really my parents never really played the card of, oh, boys should speak, girls should be quiet, and all of that in a very healthy, household. Even though the dominant cultural expectation within, I would say, many African systems is very patriarchal, that oftentimes silently, but very, very significantly silences, the voices of girls. You just learn some things through observation. And a lot of these girls that I'm working with are from, such cultural realities and backgrounds that whether they were directly told or they learn through the cultural systems, that there are certain things that, I mean, just looking at the statistics, why do we have fewer girls working in specific industries like engineering, compared to having more girls in like caregiving and things like that? We can say, oh, maybe there's a natural empathy that girls have. And I totally, agree with that, but there's also, can we talk about why they are not getting into these other spaces? Are there systemic barriers? Are there cultural expectations about what they can do versus what they cannot do? So the cultural reality for that is there, and then you move into a new culture system and a new political landscape. So many unfamiliar terrains here that you're learning. First, you're learning the culture, you're learning the systems and structures. Where do I go? Where do I not go? You're also learning the language. And by language, I'm not even talking about the literal English language. You're learning what is acceptable to be said and what is not acceptable to be said. Can I say no? And I will share maybe a quick example. When I was in grad school, I mean, like my first year in the PhD program, we had gone to Detroit for a fellowship. And I remember the girls, we were together in a team. We had finished dinner and we're waiting at the bus stop waiting for the bus to take us back to our lodge or wherever we were put then. And a guy came around us, a random guy comes around and does something with his fingers, like a sign. And my friend taps me and said, "We need to leave here now." I didn't understand what that meant. I was totally clueless. She's part of the cult. I can't even remember what the sign or whatever the guy did. So after she left, we saw one of our professors, who was the one who set us for the this fellowship, and she was telling the professor that Tosin and I were standing here, and this was what happened. And I asked her, like, we have to leave, and that she doesn't know what that means. And I still don't. I mean, this is like 13 years. And I still don't know. But she obviously recognized that and was like, we need to live here right now. And I imagine many of these girls coming into this culture, that conversations are happening, they're observing things in school, and there is a barrier between what they know and the meanings they are getting from those. And this speaks to the issue of sexual violence, for instance. Like, whether there are signs, do I even recognize the signs of sexual violence? Do I even know when this is what to look out for in a perpetrator? I don't know. Somebody had this kind of conversation with me. Is that right? Is that not? Do I have access to resources? Do I know who to turn to if I need access to this sexual health resource? Do I know spaces to go? Are there free resources? Are there no free resources? Can I talk to my parents? Oh, I can't talk to my parents because the cultural barrier is there. So for them, there's the culture from home, and then there's the culture here, and there's the structure. All this multiple layers of it. And for me, that's a lot of times I go back and forth. I'm like, do I really want to just create this small niche on like immigrants? But that's where my heart truly is. The layers is there. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So that's how I'm thinking of it. Like, it's more from cultural background, but there's also a lot more happening here. And the reason for focusing more on them is because those barriers here become more visible. You could tell maybe back home, they are natural advocates, but there's some, even for the adults amongst us, once you move into a new cultural terrain, there is this anxiety that comes with the newness of the novelty of the environment. Yes. And I think that's where I'm coming from. That what happens to you after migrating into a new cultural context that stifles your voice or sometimes silences.
There's so much to unpack there.
It is. And so when you just made that statement, because I've been like really immersed in historical work lately, it just reminded me of just like the Middle Passage and the silencing that happened there. Like when you come from your native culture, there's always been this degradation of your language, your culture. I looked at a documentary recently, and it really resonated with me. They were like, "Do you really believe that the transatlantic slavery infrastructure was random?" No, they went and asked for certain groups and tribes because they were the builders of Egypt, right? They wanted to build this country. They wanted people who had the skill set. No, we had people who came here, and the next generation, they were getting patents, and they knew how to build. They were architects. Like, so you don't tell us that we were, these ignorant individuals. No, we were intelligent. We didn't know your language, but that didn't make us not be intelligent. Right. Actually, you knew what you were coming to get.
Yeah.
And it didn't dawn on me until they made this statement. They were like, you know what? Why would you had natives here already who knew the land? Why would you go all the way Africa,
right.
Risk your life in a ship? It was a treacherous path to get people. Well, it was because of how intelligent and how smart we are. So I'm glad that's what you're emphasizing to these young women. Like, you don't have to lose who you are. Something to this system who naturally has, in my mind, socially engineered things to make it seem like we weren't a smart people, or we weren't a worthy people. And so I wanted to kind of piggyback a little bit, and sorry I went off on a tangent, but
no, that was good.
Like passionately and really immersing myself in those matters of, like, you are important. You come from royalty, you come from really intelligent people. Like, so don't ever let people make you think that any differently. I wanted to ask about the professions, as you mentioned, are oftentimes promoted based on their gender identity. And what made me think is, like, the women focused or feminized professions, they tend to be lower paying.
Yes.
So then that creates the economic infrastructure to that. So what is your strategy for helping these young ladies to realize that there's an element of and I'm not quite getting that question pulled together well, but just the economics of their decision making, like how that impacts what their lot might be in life. It does matter. Like, it creates the path for you and potentially generations of your family.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, you're just like asking me things I have to go back to, and just like, that is really interesting. Like, as I mentioned earlier, that the vision here is to raise complete girls who are like multifaceted. Like, it's not like, they have deficiency in something. No, like, they are complete, they are whole. And that's the goal here. Part of our programs, and this is not something we have ever even executed, was part of what I am projecting, in our subsequent programs and events for these girls, is to have financial literacy, especially because we know that has hit the Black community so hard, that when we talk about economic gaps, even having conversations about businesses, even as children, how can you start investing? How can you start setting money aside? How can you start thinking as a creator and not a consumer?
I love it.
I binge watch Shark Tank all the time. I'm just going to put that on the table. And I feel like my girls have gotten to a point now that their pretend play is like, now we are producing this because they watch that so much. What am I doing to this? And that's a lot of my inspiration about building economic capacity, financial independence for women, is coming from, because when I see girls, when I see young, especially kids, come in on that show, I don't see a lot of us represented. I don't see a lot of
Mm-hmm.
us creating. And for me, it's tearing my heart in the
Mm-hmm.
direction of, have we been over the time conditioned to just consume and just buy and buy? Can we start creating, strategies and pathways
Mm-hmm.
for young girls, of immigrant background, people of color, to start thinking and seeing themselves as creators? And honestly, I know it's a mindset.
Oh yeah.
You
Mm-hmm.
don't get told, you don't see the possibilities, there are no structures to fan that into flame. So while we have not actively pursued that, is one of the major strategies we are looking at for empowerment of these girls, to
Mm-hmm.
first early on get into financial literacy. Don't wait until you are a teenager. Start early on. The kid creators that we are seeing from other cultural contexts, we can do that, we can replicate that, we are more than able. But maybe because we have not been told enough, or we
Yeah.
have not built systems to allow that to happen,
Yes.
we have seen that deficiency. But that's definitely something that we are building and empowering the girls towards.
Awesome. Awesome. There's so many things. If we go, the agency around financial literacy is important, but I think the intersections here of racial identity, immigrant identity, I think I want to kind of stay there a little bit, because I'm a daughter of immigrants, and so I am the girls that you're helping in this camp. And I think community is everything, right? I was raised around Jamaican immigrants, where people would come to this part of Philly and it feels very much like Kingston, right? And so, there's pockets in Maryland where you reside that are heavily Nigerian, right? Even where I stay, like, so many of our neighbors, wonderful neighbors, are Nigerian. And I think there's something in keeping that cultural identity strong and alive that helps build agency, helps strengthen mindset, to know that you've come from something where your parents and grandparents worked really hard to migrate and go through the challenges of immigration. And especially now that the language around immigrants is so violent. And so, it's the necessity of empowering language and supportive language is more critical than ever. I also want to connect it, though, to Rashida's journey and her discovery of herself as an African American, learning more about her ancestral connections to Africa, and thinking about how do we bridge these gaps around collective awareness of what it means to be a Black girl, right? And so it's not just one thing, right? You have immigrant girls and you have immigrant girls from different countries, right? Because Jamaican Black girls are not necessarily like Nigerian Black girls, and Igbo is not the same as Yoruba, right? So even within Nigeria, you have differences. My daughter has a Zimbabwean father, right? And so there's also cultural dynamics there. And so making sure to appreciate the diversity among Black people, among Black girls. I mean, you think about our hairstyles and all the things and our textures and all these things, and the different things we have access to, braids and weaves and crochets and beautiful things that we actually have in common, right? I think Black women are the best dressed humans. We have that in common.
We always talking our style. Yes.
I don't care which country I go to. After us, I would say, is like, I love how the Japanese women tear it up. Like that's my preference. But for us, it doesn't matter where I see a Black woman, whichever country. We go to these conferences that are so like drab all the time. But when you see a Black woman come in there, it could just be her lip color. And you're like, see? And so there's so much to celebrate about who we are. But because of structures, systems, the lack of knowing our histories, the silencing of our own folklore, right, that seems to be demonized in our society growing up, right, we then look at each other sometimes with the suspicion that we're not actual sisters and that we're not in solidarity. And so how do you build that in a community where, yes, it's important to acknowledge the immigrant experience and to acknowledge what is stripped away in that journey of migration, but how do you connect it to, once you're on this land, you're identified as Black, and so you need to understand what that means in this country, and we need to be a part of that movement so that all Black girls are rising together. So how do you have these conversations with
honestly, Rochelle? I was going to say we have a common enemy regardless of where you're coming from.
Exactly, girl. That's how I see it.
Like whether you're from Uganda or you're from Nigeria or you're from
colonizers. Sorry. Anyway.
So I think that shared experience or shared identity as being Black. And this is one of the points, I tell my intercultural communication students that I never had the understanding of Blackness until I got here. Because in Nigeria, you don't describe people by color. You describe people by tribe. Or you just describe them as she's a woman or she's a man. And that's it. If someone is mean to you, it's not because you are Black. It's because they're a jerk or something, or they're just being mean. Or,
Wow.
So what that meant was that I wasn't even sensitized, maybe not even as much sensitized to microaggressions and racism. And so when and that's an important part of the transition for these girls, that which sometimes it comes as a strength because you're coming from a perspective that, oh, well, I'm just a girl, maybe the cultural discourse of being a girl is there, but it's not as much centered on race. And now you come here, and again, it's still going back to the double layers of, having to navigate culture. Initially, it was maybe having to navigate gender, and now you have to navigate race, racial identity. And because a lot of them, like me, never really got that exposure or had those conversations around racial identity. They don't know what it necessarily means to be Black here. Right? And so part of what I think this work with the girls does for them is, personally, I don't want to beat in that dominant discourse of you are a minority. We are, because again, we see it's going to be a cycle of, we're just going to be reproducing those dominant discourses that underserve us, cut us, inherently. I want to provide, in fact, if it's possible, to isolate them out of these dominant discourses of marginalized, of minoritized, of oppression, to bring them into a space to reset them, to see the possibilities that exist for you as an immigrant girl, as a Black girl, without thinking of being shortchanged or being silenced by the system. Like, maybe I'm a dreamer, but I'm envisioning a space, right, where girls can just go in and be. See them in aviation industry and see them in different, not just different contexts, see them, thrive and not thinking about a child doesn't think about what they cannot do until they are told that you can't. Right? You see my girl who thinks she can make everything, like she would put in, she thinks she's a scientist at this point. She makes like baking soda and and dish soap and just tries to, because she believes she can do it. Can we bring these girls out of the mindset and the dominant discourses that keeps ringing that they cannot do this? And for me, that's it, that there's this centrality of race, but I also want to bring you into a structure and a system where you can rise above these discourses, where I'm hoping and trusting that we'll have more resources in years to come, that we provide enrichment resources, education, training, mentorship, attach them to, amazing women like you, to say, go learn from this person. Imagine a woman like you doing this amazing work. Be inspired by other people that look like them.
Mm-hmm.
right? To see the possibilities that exist for them. And I think for me, that we still recognize that centrality of race, which is an additional layer to immigration, but also take them out of that mindset of averageness, of limitation, of being silenced, to bring them in as disruptors in our society.
Yeah, that's so good.
Oh my
Like,
God, fired up. I'm sorry.
no, no,
Amazing.
I
Don't
love it.
apologize.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's
We
not
are uncensored, uncensored.
absolutely, and it's not a deficit mindset to say, yes, like technically we're 13% of the population, right? But that doesn't limit your mind, like especially if you're raised around community. And now we get a chance to have digital community, right? Virtual community. And I
Yes.
think that's one of the benefits of, social media spaces is to curate healthy spaces for our children to watch and see faces that look like them, even if we don't live near them, right? And I think that's so powerful.
Yeah.
So just to get a little bit on your work, because you're working with young girls, I want to get a little bit on the health work, right? And so connecting your work around Black maternal health, right? And you do work around sexual violence, Black maternal health, a lot of incredible work. You notice that it doesn't right now, or I think there's a couple studies that have seen that it doesn't matter the migration pattern of the Black woman. She still faces implicit bias, and she still faces premature death and premature birth of her baby. And so we realize that racism is real. We realize that implicit biases is within the healthcare system, but we're still raising our daughters to be able to speak up because they're fully human and fully whole. And so I want people to kind of look into your work and see the incredible stuff you're doing. We'll connect your website to it as well. But as we're heading towards, wrapping up this incredible conversation that we could easily do part 2. And
I know part 2 is prime.
I know where you live, so we'll definitely do a part 2.
You do.
But I'd love to hear from Rashida too, to bring us into your hope for the whole girl and women as this is one of our first episodes for Women's Month, and then Dr. Adebayo to also talk about your hope for the whole girl.
Yeah, I'm going to keep mine brief because I want to hear what you have to say about it. I my hope is that, we continue to, what you said, we could have dropped the mic and shut the video off. Like the last thing you just mentioned with all the things, right, is that we want to have and create whole young women so that they can be who they want to be. Without those barriers or restrictions that society tends to try and convince them that they have to conform to. So I completely agree with that. And my hope is that we can continue to be those aunties, those models, those individuals who can help to guide them in that way. And I was thinking back when there was a conversation recently. There was a point that was made in this conversation that I want to highlight, which is even for myself, is for me to not be the silencer, right? Or for me to not be the person who, helps to facilitate the loss of voice. Because I just the banter between my daughter and my son, I'm playing back some of those instances where I interjected and maybe I was the one to say, well, don't respond in that way to her, right? Because of the conditioning that I've received. So I just my hope is that I could be a better role model and that I can reflect on when I'm being the silencer. And that we all, as the models, the role models, can do that, right? So that we can create women, young leaders who feel like they can conquer whatever they put their mind to. And so I will, at this point, just kind of turn it over to you to now address the hope for the whole girl and woman.
Oh my goodness. I feel like we can just drop the mic right now.
That was wonderful.
No, that was thought provoking. My hope for the whole girl. I hope to be that one woman for the young girl out there for not giving up. I There are several moments that you will think, and I'm sure we all still go through this moment, so you're just like, I'm done, like I'm just done. And you think about one person that I can't be done because of impact of this person. I want to be that to young girls. I want young girls to look at the world, no matter how many barriers they face, and they look at me and say, well, I have this so many multiple layers of barriers, but for Auntie, but for Tosin, I am going to keep moving. I want to be that person for the whole girl.
That's beautiful. That just made me think about my grandmother. You know, so thank you for that, because I thought about my grandmother, who was the one who migrated here and made and trailblazed for us, and I cannot imagine what she had to endure in the 60s as a Black woman. But thank God for these women like yourself. You are that woman.
Yeah,
you don't have to hope to be that woman.
Yeah.
You are that woman, and I'm grateful for your voice and for your determination to speak up and to encourage us. It does not go unnoticed. We see you. We appreciate you so much and your work. And we're going to try to motivate you to bring the age down of summer camp. So
exactly.
So we could drop our girls off.
There's no babysitting.
This is work, honey. You gotta come and working.
Thank you so much, Tosin. You're amazing. And thank you again, Rashida, for all your great work. And, you know, cheers to Women's Month, y'all.
Cheers to you too, Rochelle. Definitely.
Yeah.
And you do amazing work as well.
You do.
So, yes, we thank you for your time. And thank you all for joining us today in the community. Please be on the lookout for the next episodes and hit the like and subscribe button. We don't say that enough. Hit that like and subscribe button. We look forward to seeing you on the flip side.
Take care.